of San Francisco, Infineon Raceway in Sonoma, California. Today, it's the Snap-on Tools Jelly Belly 200. Hi, everybody. I'm Mike Hogwood. Alongside is Phil Parsons. Going to be interesting to see how they handle this road course today.
Extremely challenging, difficult road course. Very much unusual for these guys. They always run ovals.
Third member of our broadcast team is Steve Burns.
There are some familiar names in this field here in Sonoma. Richard Childress Racing driver Kevin Harvick is in the field. And Boris Said, who has qualified on the pole for the Winston Cup race here. It's a doubleheader weekend. We'll start on the outside of row 4. But for anybody to win this race, they're going to have to go through Jim Engelbright. He's won the last 3 consecutive races here in Sonoma.
Thank you, Steve. And before we take the green, let's take a look at the starting grid. Todd Souza is on the pole. Alongside is Bernie Lamar. Row 2, there's Kevin Harvick, Winston Cup driver.
Row 3, David Gillen won last time out at Irwindale. Row 4, 3-time defending champion Jim Engelbright, and road racing specialist Boris Said.
On row 5, Brian Germoni won at Phoenix earlier this year. And on row 6, Kenny Shepard, second in this race just 1 year ago.
There's Steve Boletto. He was third at Cajon earlier this year. In row 8, Craig Rodman, the 2001 Series champion.
Now we move on to row 9, and Dave Brown is there. He is a road racing specialist. Alongside him is Brandon Krause. Now in the next row, there's your series points leader, Augie Vidovich Jr.
There's Tyler McGuire. He's making his first career start. And Danny Burson was 4th at Irwindale earlier this year.
Jim Pettit won at Stockton this season. Nathan Teesey is a rookie we're going to have to watch out. He's in row 14.
Doug McCowan won this race back in 1996. And Winston Cup star Robbie Gordon will be starting the 51 Pontiac from the rear of the field.
Frank Daney Jr. is from Mechanicsville, Virginia. He's in row 17. And last year's season champion Eddie McKeon is in row 18.
Row 19, J.R. Patton was 3rd last time out at Irwindale. And in row 20, Greg Voigt was 4th earlier this year at Mesa Marin.
And in the 21st row, Jeff Bailey, who comes in from the Northwest Series alongside Richard Johnson. Let's head back down now to Steve Burns.
And Rick Rosbarski in the 51 car was not feeling well this morning. He's got an all-star substitute. Winston Cup driver Robbie Gordon has agreed to drive the number 51 car in this race this afternoon.
Not a bad substitute driver. Robbie Gordon ready to go in that 51 machine. Ready to take the green right now. And there's a problem with one of our cars on the front row, Bernie Lamar. How about it, Steve?
And 22-year-old Bernie Lamar in the pits. They've taken the hood off of his race car, looking at the carburetor on that engine. He's still trying to fire the motor. Looks like they're going to change the air cleaner out on the 98 of Bernie Lamar.
Oh, what a tough break.
Yeah, he's got the motor running, so maybe he can be able to get that thing back together here. He hasn't lost anything yet because they're now just taking the green flag.
Well, the race is underway here at Infineon Raceway. Glad to have you with us. And we're going to go on board with a road racing specialist. This is Boris Said.
We can already see the red car up front as Kevin Harvick is already taking the lead from his 4th place starting position. Kevin
Harvick, not a stranger to this series, has won a couple of races back in the 90s with these guys before he went to the big time and made it Winston Cup racing. Of course, drives for Richard Childress right now, but Kevin Harvick making a move here early in this race. We have another onboard camera. This is Daryl Lamore, started 32nd, trying to gain some positions.
This thing really gets crowded early on. These corners are so tight. You got so many cars trying to get to the same place. These corners are extremely difficult.
Again, you're on board with Daryl Lamore out of Phoenix, Arizona.
There's Frank Daney Jr., the 70 car, the blue and yellow car at the front of that pack right there. This is what we call the S's right here, Mike. These guys are going through the S's.
And again, we'll make the point, this is the first and really the only road course in this series. These guys don't have a lot of experience here.
They sure don't. Now, there are some specialists here, as we mentioned earlier in the grid. Boris Said, obviously, is a specialist. Dave Brown is a road racing specialist. So there are a handful of road racing specialists in this field, but for the most part, these guys do not have a great deal of experience on road courses.
The 29 car, Kevin Harvick out in front. There's Boris Said in the 99, and the 28 is young Brandon Witt, just 20 years old. trying to catch the veteran, Boris said.
If that 99 car looks familiar, that is the same car that Ken Schrader runs. That's actually Ken Schrader's car. Oh, we got a spin.
Got a spin. That's the 71 of Troy Ermish turning around. Ermish out of Fremont, California, does a good job. No yellows. And again, another car is off the track. That is the 3 of West Banks.
I told you these corners were difficult, Mike.
And without a lot of practice time, a lot of experience, it is tough negotiating them. Boy, after just one lap, starting dead laps, Robbie Gordon already up to the 28th position.
He had finished second in the Winston Cup race out here last year, a couple years ago, so he knows this racetrack, and he's a very much accomplished road racer.
Again, Rick Zbarsky, the regular driver of that 51 car, came down ill, and pretty good substitute. Robbie Gordon. There's Nathan Teesey, a rookie from Minnesota, a little bit off course.
Nathan had a little help. It looked like there was a car right in his bumper when he got turned sideways.
Just underway here at Infineon Raceway. Kevin Harvick is your leader after 3 laps. Snap-on Jelly Belly 200 at Infineon Raceway in Sonoma, California. That's the machine of Kevin Harvick, and there's nobody around him right now.
Now that's turn 7 right there. That starts the S's.
The 6th car was Todd Sousa. There's another car off the track, Greg Voigt, a regular racer in this series out of Santa Barbara.
I have a car that
and he gets back on course. There is no caution.
A lot of times they will throw, when the car's off the track like that, they will throw a local yellow flag just to warn drivers that there's something going on in that area of the racetrack. If you can get back going, that will not necessitate a full course yellow.
There's Jim Englebright. He has won the last 3 races at this track, started 7th today. There's another car off, Stan Silva Jr. Back to Englebright. Boy, he has owned this track in this series.
He sure has. He's done a great job out here. Now, again, for somebody to win this race, they're going to have to get through him before they can do it. That's for sure.
It's his first start of this series this year. Silva about to get passed by Robbie Gordon. Robbie Gordon really driving aggressive here early in this race.
There's Darrell Lamore off track.
Darrell Lamore, as we told you, had one of our in-cars. Gave it quite a ride right there.
Well, let's take a look at what happened here. You saw the right front of the car jump up. I think he ran over the curb, and that upset the car, and around he went.
Thomas Martin down on pit road. The hood coming off, and that is not a good sign. Meanwhile, Kevin Harvick continues to dominate out front.
That's a brand new race car built by Jay Hitchcock out of High Point, North Carolina. Kevin's truck crew, that full-time truck crew, built this car and brought it out here and maintained it. And right now they've got it happening.
And Kevin's got his regular crew with him, his own guys. There are a few from that Winston Cup team that are helping them out in the pits this afternoon. There's Doug McCown on pit road, a little early.
Left side tires going on. They can change 4 under green flag racing if they so choose, but they can only change 2 per caution flag, the rules of the series.
Here's the battle for 6th place. Young Brandon Witt has looked pretty good here early in that 28 car. Boris said now out in front of him. Boris said, who Phil told you is a road racing specialist. Donnie Richardson, his crew chief today. Let's go down to Steve Burns.
With Donnie Richardson, his crew chief. Donnie, what is Boris saying about his race car?
He hadn't said a word so far. He just said at the start of the race that he was going to try to cruise there, take it easy, not abuse anything. And so we have a little more race car left at the end. And right now he's just winding the laps down. He hasn't said a word, and he's real consistent with the lap times. And take care of this thing, and we get this Featherlite Auto Parts car up front when it counts.
Thank you, Steve. We're always interested in what Boris said.
He's got some damage to the front of that car right there. I know he must have run over some debris. Take a ride with him. These are the S's right here. Very, very challenging part of this racetrack. Now he's going down to the right-hand turn 11, which sets him up for the little short shoot here. What you see ahead of you is the horseshoe-shaped turn 11. Slowest part of the racetrack. A lot of guys go to first gear down here, Mike. About 30, 35 miles an hour, something like that. Very, very slow part of the racetrack.
Boris said, obviously has his sights set on that man, the 29 of Kevin Harvick.
The engine in this car came from out here, Bill Meropoulos, who used to build Kevin's engines when he raced on the West Coast. He grew up in Bakersfield, California. Whoa.
Oh, that's the 56 of Danny Burson,
Oh,
and
hard
he's into
contact.
the tires. Burson out of Albuquerque, New Mexico, and well, we do have a caution out now. That's the first caution of the day. It comes out on lap 15. Burson into the tire barrier. Let's take a look again, Phil, at what happened to him.
Yeah, that's the tail end of it right there. He actually got a little bit loose, looked like he overcorrected, and the thing spun around to the right. And fortunately, the tires were there. That's a lot better than hitting a concrete barrier. But unfortunately, we're not going to be able to. He's not going to be able to drive away from that one.
So the day probably done. Hey, Kevin Harvick's in the pits. Down to Steve now.
And they discussed making changes on Kevin Harvick's race car, but he was afraid any change would affect the handling of the car, so it's right side tires only for Harvick. And he certainly has an advantage here with many Winston Cup crewmen from Richard Childress Racing making the stop. Of the 14 races on the schedule this year, only 3 of them will require pit stops, so this is one of their longest races of the season.
And that is going to be an advantage, and not to add to the fact the experience that Kevin Harvick had. Robbie Gordon, boy, it is. He made his way up through the field.
30 cars he's already passed here.
Well, service done on the Gordon machine.
And there's Brendan Lamar. We documented his trouble earlier. We saw him changing an air cleaner. He just now has started this race. 15 laps down.
So disappointing beginning. And there's our pole sitter, Todd Souza, who is now back out in the lead as we're under caution here. So Souza has taken the lead. The pole sitter out front, Kevin Harvick, has made his pit stop. Welcome back to Infineon Raceway. We're going to move ahead a little bit, but before we do, we want to catch you up on some action. Souza did take the lead for a while.
Here's Eric Holmes. He finished third in this race last year, right now running second in the 62 car.
Now on lap 21, Kenny Shepard, who had a great run here a year ago, goes off course.
Runner-up last year, turn 11, again the slowest part of the racetrack. You see a lot of guys get down there, use a little bit too much brake, get wheel hopping, and spin around.
David Gilliland, unfortunately, has some transmission trouble, and he had been hoping for a great day.
Oh yeah, big win last time out at Irwindale, second series win for him.
Steve Biletto is in the top 10 in points. Stopped out on the course, and that's going to hurt his finish today. And that brought out the second caution. So a tough break for Steve Biletto.
There's another full course caution, as you mentioned. Here comes Todd Souza. You know, I talked to Todd earlier today. He said he tried to rent a Winston Cup crew, and he had one lined up, and they backed out to the last minute. They had some extra work to do, so this is his guys doing a pit stop here.
And there are some Winston Cup guys helping out Kevin Harvick. As if he didn't have enough strength in that car, he's got a great pit crew helping him out. And on the restart, Holmes in the 62 car, the leader.
There's Jim Engelbright right here in the second position.
Holmes going for the title of the series this year. He's third in points, 4 top 10s in 5 races.
Now he's going to come right in the pits here. This is a strategy a lot of guys have. Instead of pitting under caution, as long as they're close to the lead, they can pit. They can even change 4 tires, get back out, not lose a lap. Then if the caution comes out, everyone else pits. They've got tremendous track position.
Engelbright pitted, and that gave the lead to Dave Brown.
Here's Dan Holtz now leading because Dave Brown had the same pit strategy as a lot of the other guys, pitted under green.
You get in that pit window, as soon as you're in it, these guys are on pit
You know,
road.
we saw Jeff Bodine win Watkins Glen a number of years ago by that same exact pit strategy.
And what a tough break for Robbie Gordon. We showed you a minute ago. He'd made up 30 spots. He's out with transmission trouble. Just got that ride this morning, shaking hands with his crew and his team.
The Howard Ford spins the 0 car right there. He put down a lot of fluid on the racetrack. That's going to necessitate another full course yellow.
And by the way, Howard Ford was driving the Chevrolet. And now we come back around, and Kevin Harvick regains the lead. after everybody comes down pit road, and now we're ready for a restart again, ready to get this race going on lap 36.
We saw Kevin Harvick pit for the second time on the previous caution flag to this, so he actually stayed out on the racetrack and has great track position.
Great track position, fresh tires, and Kevin Harvick just lapped Darrell Lamore. You're on board with him right now.
We saw Darrell have trouble earlier and spun out. Kevin hasn't had much trouble today, that's for sure. He's got 4 fresh tires on. He's pitted the last 2 caution flags, so he should be done for the day. There's another spin.
That's Brian Germoni in the 89 turning around.
He got going fairly quickly, but at that he's going to lose 10, 15 positions. These cars are so tightly bunched right now.
Germoni won at Phoenix earlier this year out of Windsor, California.
A new look to that car. We saw that car earlier this year, and it was solid blue. It's much of a different look for Brian Germoni.
Like the way that car looks. There's another car off course. That is Lamore, who has had kind of a wild day today. And Greg Voigt as well. He is stopped on the course.
There's Darrell Lamore here coming through the S's. Pretty hard contact with a tire barrier there again, but that's still better than the alternative.
Well, we're under caution once again at the Snap-on Jelly Belly 200. Kevin Harvick put here along with Phil Parsons and Steve Burns. We're ready to go green, and let's see what Kevin Harvick can do, and even more importantly, what can Boris Said do, who's now right behind him.
Got a great road racer, Boris Said, right behind him. He got a little damage on the front of his Federated Auto Parts Chevrolet, but let's see if Boris can hang with Kevin here. Not many people have been able to this race.
All right, ready to take the green, and Kevin Harvick's going to get a bit of a jump here.
He's got a pretty good, he's got about 8 car length lead, and they're just barely at the top of the hill.
Harvick really smooth on this course. You know, you wonder, did Kevin Harvick run this race to get some experience for Winston Cup, or did he do it just for fun?
Well, I think probably a combination of both. And against his own team, Ed Barrier is his crew chief from back in Kernersville, North Carolina. They run the truck that Kevin runs. So I think it's, you know, he's got a long relationship with Snap-on out here. So this is obviously a Snap-on sponsored car. So, and plus, you know, he's a racer. And he wants to race whenever he can. You know, the Winston Cup Series is going to have an off weekend in a week or so, and he's going to be up in Milwaukee racing a truck.
So Kevin Harvick, who is from Bakersfield, California, now makes his home in Kernersville, North Carolina, leading this race, and he has definitely been the dominant car here in this event today.
Well, he sure has. There's turn 11 right here. Remember, Kevin Harvick is a good road racer. He may not have the stats to back it up, but you remember he had a real good car a couple years ago when Robbie Gordon was racing for the lead, and he ended up getting by Robbie to get his lap back because he had some earlier trouble. So he ran with Robbie Gordon, who ended up finishing second to Tony Stewart in that race.
An idea of how fast they travel down that straightaway.
Really stretching that lead out now.
Craig Rodman's in that number 2 car, the battle for 3rd place, and Rodman now owns it.
Got the 9 of Kenny Shepard. You know, we saw him off track earlier, but probably some good pit strategies kept him right up in the hunt.
The 62 is Eric Holmes.
Whoa, Rodman got sideways off of turn 7 there, and Eric Holmes can be able to get by.
Holmes goes from 5th place to 3rd place in just a couple of corners. As we said, he's 3rd in the points in this series.
Kenny Shepard came along with him, so Craig Rodman lost 2 positions there.
Holmes started in 3rd place, and that's where he's running right now.
Jimmy Engelbright right behind Craig Rodman. Whoa.
Thomas Green, another car off course, and that is your pole sitter, Todd Souza. So a tough break for Souza.
Boy, it sure was.
Got to win this season. He's had 3 straight top 10s, but that's going to be in jeopardy now with some damage on the right side.
That car's dog walking. Looked like he might have got out in the loose stuff a little bit there and got into the tire barrier. It looks like it moved the rear end housing over. You could see the left rear tire pushed out from the fender, so it actually moved the rear end housing over.
And the caution flag is out, and I like that term, dog walking. That's what Sousa's car is doing right now. And it comes to a stop on pit road. Restart on lap 45. And wow, Kevin Harvick with another great jump. You're on board with Boris said.